We're going to sew our quilt top together in rows. We will take number 2 and put it on number 1, number 4 onto number 3, and number 6 on number 5 on that first row. And we will sew the seam between them. Then come back, put it in place, check your placement to make sure it's right. Then we'll take this unit and put it on that unit and sew it, and this unit onto that unit and sew it, and row 1 will be together. Then we will do each of the rows that way until we have separate rows. Then we will sew the rows together and our quilt top will be in one piece. To sew our 2 blocks together, this is number 2. I'm going to put it on to number 1. Our seams are going in different directions, so fit them together. They should notch together very nicely if you get them in the right orientation. So get the top even and the right edge even, and they should notch together very well. Keep them that way. Now, one of my favorite tools, one of 2, if you have an orange stick, the kind that you do your fingernails with, that works, or a seam ripper. Now, the seam ripper I'm using, I'm going to turn it upside down and poke with the point. I'm not going to cut a hole in anything, but I can use it to poke things together that I don't want to sew my finger up in. So we're going to hold our threads so we don't get a mess. When you get through the first seams, line the second ones, notch them, and I use my seam ripper to hold them in place. I don't use a lot of pins. Notch that third one. The fourth one. And then make sure the ends are even. Hold it with your seam ripper as you sew off the end. And let's see if we got them lined up right. That looks pretty good. We'll do the rest of row 1 this way. The next 2 blocks of row number 1 are going to fit together differently. When you put them together, you have the same brown strip going up. Take one of them and just flip them the opposite direction so that you can notch them together like we did the last ones. It doesn't matter which one, just one of the 2, and get them notched. Come down to the other end once you get it started. Leave your needle down, come down to the other end, even up your corners, and put just enough tension on it. Don't pull, but make sure it's going to come out even. Remember, these are bias edges, so you don't want to stretch them. You just want to make sure they come out even. And I'll go iron these. I'm putting the 3rd unit of the top row to the 2nd. If I flip this one onto this one, my solid piece is on top, and I want to sew with that solid piece on the bottom. So I'm going to flip it on top, just like this, and then just invert it to where that solid piece is on the bottom, and I can deal with it a little bit better. I have row 1 in 1 unit. You can see how these nicely line up. You've got solids here and solids there, so some of them go against solid pieces, and that's good. Always sew with the solid piece on the bottom so you can make sure your seams on the other side go in the right direction. Row 2 is going to be a mirror image of row 1. It's just upside down. So anytime you meet problems with the seams, go back to what we've said before. If you have 2 in the same direction, just flip one the other way so that they will snug together. And if they do snug together, that's great. We love that. So we'll keep putting these rows together. Iron the odd ones, 1, 3, and 5 to the left, and the even ones 2, 4, and 6 to the right. And if we need to adjust something as we sew the rows together, we will. I have row 1 and row 2 sewn in rows. I'm going to flip row 2 onto 1 or 1 onto 2. It does not matter. Just make sure you don't sew the opposite seams. Make sure you sew the seam that's between them. Row 1's seams go this way, row 2 this way. They should lock together snugly as you go between the blocks. If they don't, you won't get that perfect plus sign that we're striving for. So make sure you snug those centers good. I have my rows together, row 1 to row 2. I'm going to set that seam just like we did before. Peel it open. Don't move that bottom piece if you can help it. Peel it open. Don't stretch anything, just ease it out of the way and bump it open. I have sewn row 1 to row 2, row 3 to row 4, and row 5 to row 6 so that I'm not dragging the whole quilt top back and forth every time. Sew it into smaller like units and then sew those units together and you won't be handling the whole quilt as much. So we'll get these 3 pieces put together now. The center of the quilt is completed. Check where each of your blocks meet to make sure you have that perfect letter T or plus sign to where your seams line up just right. Make sure you've got your pattern right. I think I got everything right. I had a block messed up before and I caught it. Keep referring back to your pattern to make sure everything is in the right place. Now it's time for borders. The best way to do borders is to get your quilt top spread out, and then we're going to measure from side to side, write that down, and then measure it again to make sure we're right. We're going to cut some, I'll probably use the blue for the first border because it's not against the side as much. So I'm going to cut some strips of the blue fabric 1.5 inches wide, enough to go all the way around it, 4 or 5 ought to do it. And then I will cut 2 pieces, the measurement here, and sew them to the top and the bottom. Then measure from the top of that new border strip to the bottom of the new border strip and cut one for each of the sides and sew them on. And we'll do that now. To get our first border on, I'm going to measure. I've got it spread out on this flannel board. It is 36 3/4 inches. I will write that down and I will measure it again in the center. You don't want to measure the inch, you want to measure it across the center. Make sure that amount is right, and then I'm going to cut 4 strips to go around this quilt in the blue color.